This entire video was filmed on the Sony A7C with the Viltrox 28mm f4.5. What's up everybody, it's me Steve, and on today's show we're taking a look at a brand new lens from Viltrox. This is the 28mm f4.5, sort of a pancake lens, but realistically this lens is so small it's actually kind of like one of those body cap lenses, except unlike those body cap lenses that are usually f8 and manual focus, this lens is f4.5 and does in fact have autofocus. Also, I should mention this lens is going to be available for Sony E mount and Nikon Z mount, and it is a full frame lens. This is definitely one of the most interesting lenses that Viltrox has released in quite some time. And they're actually releasing it through crowdfunding, so I'll have that link in the description. It's a link to Indiegogo. This lens is currently going for $99 US or 109 euros, and in the coming days there's going to be sales on this lens too, so the price is going to be even lower than that. You're definitely going to want to check out that link in the description. Of course, the big selling point of this lens is the size of it. It is absolutely tiny. You know, when you look at this thing from the side, it's almost paper thin. Like, to really put it into perspective, here it is beside the Viltrox 20mm f2.8 lens. That's a really small lens to begin with. That's literally one of the smallest lenses I own, and that lens looks huge compared to this 28mm lens. It's literally like the size of one of those lens cap lenses, but the difference is where those lens cap lenses are always manual focus f8 lenses, this lens is an autofocus lens at f4.5. Like, if I put my hand in front of it, the lens actually focuses. That's not something that you're getting from one of those body cap lenses. Plus, another thing that I like with this is it's so small that when you combine it with a camera like the Sony A7C, it almost becomes pocketable. Like, this setup right here would definitely fit into a jacket pocket, and it's so small it would almost fit into a pants pocket. This is the kind of lens and camera combo that would actually make for a pretty nice street photography setup. But I think what surprises me the most about this lens is just how good the image quality is. I don't know why, but being such a small lens, I thought the image quality might be kind of compromised or something, but no, this is a regular lens. This lens is super sharp, it has good colors, it has good contrast. The only thing that I have seen though is that lens flaring. Aside from that, this lens is awesome. Now, in terms of flaring, this lens actually does tend to flare quite a bit, as you can see in these sample videos. I noticed last night, even inside the house with the studio lights, I was still getting a little bit of lens flare in the scene, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. The other thing that you need to keep in mind too is this lens doesn't have a filter thread due to its unique design, so you won't be able to use any kind of lens filters with this. And like I mentioned, one of the coolest aspects of this lens is the fact that it does in fact have autofocus. So it will track you. You can walk around, you can talk, you can do whatever. You can use this like a normal lens. This isn't one of those body cap lenses that's just manual focus. This is an actual functioning lens that you can really use in real life. I think this lens might actually have a pretty big appeal for social media as well. Even for vlogging, even though it's 28mm, that's a little bit tight for vlogging. Like, I'm holding it at arm's length right now. And by the way, I'm on Sony A7C, so I don't know how good this image stabilization is. This footage might be kind of shaky. Trying to look, it's probably kind of shaky. But having said that, this is such a cool, compact system. And like I already showed too, you can literally fit it in a pants pocket. You know, normally I would film on a wider lens like a 16mm or an 18mm, but handheld right here, that's not bad. That's a pretty decent focal length. You know, it's not one of those lenses where it's like super cropped or way too tight. This is actually pretty good looking. And that's the thing too, at f4.5, I think that's a pretty decent aperture for vlogging. You know, you've got a little bit of background blur and background separation, but it's not so much that your audience can't see where you are. Like, you can tell that I'm in a bunch of trees, but the background still has a nice, slightly out of focus quality. Now, some interesting things you should know about this lens are, like I already mentioned, it's an f4.5 lens. But when I say that, I mean it's literally an f4.5 lens. There's no stopping it down to f8, f16, anything like that. It's just f4.5. The other thing you should know about this lens is the minimum focusing distance is about 1.05 feet or 0.32 meters, which that's not super close. I've noticed in the past week when I was taking pictures and filming with this lens, there were a lot of times where I couldn't quite get close enough to the subject. Like, if you're filming a smaller subject and you're trying to fill the frame with that subject, it can be difficult to get just as close as you need to. That's just something to keep in mind. The other thing that's kind of cool about this lens that I wasn't expecting is it actually produces pretty cool sun stars. Like, look at these pictures here. I wasn't even trying for that, but basically, if you just point the camera at the sun at the right angle, you can get some pretty nice little sun stars coming off of this lens. It's literally rained every day for the past 2 weeks. That whole first part of the video was filmed the other day when it stopped raining, like right before sunset. But it was still like super dark and cloudy, so hopefully I'm able to get like a little bit better lighting today. Anyway, I think one of the funny and kind of unexpected things that I've had using this lens the past week is when you put it on this camera, which is already kind of a rangefinder style body, it makes it feel like a fixed lens camera. Like whenever I'm going to take pictures and I'm holding it up to my eye, it feels like using a Fuji X100 or something, or maybe like a Sony RX1. As a matter of fact, I bet this lens here is probably smaller than the lens that they used on the RX1. I wasn't expecting it, but this lens is one of those things where you're kind of in a rut doing everything the same way day in, day out, and something new comes along and it just totally changes the way you look at everything. Still the same me and still the same camera, but this lens just adds such a different vibe to everything. I think the biggest takeaway for me, and I kind of already emphasized this, but it's the fact that the image quality is so good on this lens. Like, I literally had no idea it would just be a regular lens packed into this tiny little paper thin body. Oh, the other thing that's kind of funny that I forgot to point out too is there's no lens cap on this lens. It's so small. The lens cap is actually built in. You just use that little switch on the front to open and close the lens cap. But yeah, if you are a Sony or a Nikon user and you've got a full frame camera, you might want to check this lens out. Getting this kind of image quality and this kind of performance in something that only costs $100. And also, I think there's going to be some sales coming up too on this lens, so you might be able to get this lens even under $100. That price is absolutely insane. So for real, if you're interested, check that link in the description because you're not going to want to miss out on that. Anyway, I think that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.